get greedy whenever. Now get greedy whenever you want.
where he was at second place. But
London! It's time to play Find Unlimited. Get ready to play from wherever you are because we're bringing the game to you. Vodafone and Samsung are giving you the chance to win one of thousands of tech prizes, including the new Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G. What will you find in your area? Play between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. You'll have to be quick. Register now at findunlimited.co.uk.
I'm Keen with you today on a Monday with better news on this pandemic. There's no question about that, but still very grim. The sirens here off of Central Park in New York City are really something to hear. It is persistent, and just a drone that's out there as the first responders do what they do, as many others try to go on with their lives. Some of the people looking at this are in public health. There's any number of great institutions around this nation, and one of them is at Johns Hopkins University, of course, with their engineering. Long ago and far away, Mr. Bloomberg was an engineering student at Johns Hopkins, and he has endowed their School of Public Health. Here is their Vice Dean, Mr. Joshua Sharfstein, Dr. Sharfstein, on the state, the peak of this pandemic.
I think that there's a little bit of a misunderstanding about this concept of a peak. And, I think people, for where we are now, there will be a peak. But the only reason it's peaking is because we have shut everything down. So I think some people think when you're on the other side of the peak, it just goes down and we can open everything back up again. But if the reason it's peaking is because we've shut everything down, as soon as we open things back up, it's going to go up. And so we have to use the time that we have, that we're buying, to strengthen our healthcare system, to get more protective equipment to healthcare workers, and to build a stronger public health response. So we have another set of tools besides just shutting everything down.
Dr. Sharfstein, we're flattening the curve. It's been successful in certain geographies. There's no question about that. I think of, let's say, the Baltimore Orioles. They're going to have a big game here against the Boston Red Sox. They're going to pack Cal Ripken Field, no question about that. Is it going to be safe to go to a baseball game with all those people crammed in?
Well, certainly it's not safe at the moment. Oriole Park at Camden Yards is a wonderful ballpark, but I think people realize that health comes first. And, right now that's not possible. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to, and I like this analogy that other people have made, maybe we flipped off the light on our kind of world very quickly, but when we turn it back on, it's going to be more like a dimmer switch. Absent a miraculous treatment or vaccine, we're going to have to move very slowly. We're going to have to make sure that we're not having the cases surge so high that they put our healthcare system in jeopardy again. So I guarantee you it won't be baseball games or football matches that are going first. It's going to be send more people going to work, in particular industries, probably not bars and restaurants. So it's going to be, a slow increase, and we may have to dial it back. If you look at what Singapore has been doing, Singapore has kept a number of things open. They have encouraged social distancing. They do not have large gatherings like, sporting events. And they've been using a very robust public health response to keep it in check, isolation, contact tracing, quarantine. But they recently had an increase in cases, so they've dialed up their social distancing. So I think it's going to be most likely a period where it's like a dimmer switch until we can really get the light all the way on.
Dr. Sharfstein, let us turn to Johns Hopkins and public health. I look at it like infrastructure, where the nation has a tradition of being grievously underfunded. There's no question we've been that way when we look at this emergent moment, this pandemic. What is the first order condition to better public health in America?
Well, first we need people. Public health in the United States has lost more than 50,000 workers over the last decade or so. It's been very underfunded and neglected. It's very important that, particularly now, urgently, there are people to do some of the core public health tasks. We're going to need partnerships because even with more people, we still won't have the reach. So we're going to really have to have the private sector mobilized behind public health in different areas, provide resources like hotel space and dorms for people to stay when they're sick. And I think, for the future, we're going to need to rethink our priorities. We have so little attention paid to prevention of different kinds, including preventing the harm that a pandemic can cause.
Joshua Sharfstein, he is at Johns Hopkins in the Bloomberg School of Public Health. That was just wonderful. He's vice dean, and Paul, everyone we talk to in the medical community is so holistic. They all have specialties, and of course, Dr. Sharfstein working with FDA and working with the state of Maryland on public health. But it's amazing how they can span across this pandemic and really inform about what's going on and what the trend is.
Yeah, I think they look at it, and doctors like Dr. Sharfstein look at it from a 30,000-foot level, Tom,
yeah.
and they kind of look across the whole healthcare space and identify where the weaknesses are. And clearly, not that you design a healthcare system for a pandemic like this, but certainly we could do better. And there are areas where investment would be really welcome. As he said, personnel would be one of the places.
Yeah, so we see lots of different stories here. Of course, Prime Minister Johnson in a hospital, I guess doing well. He released a tweet, I believe, an hour ago, saying he's holding up and still maintaining his leadership of the government of the United Kingdom. I noticed, Paul, Dr. Varadkar, who I've met with a number of times of Ireland, I guess he's going back into practice. It's not a publicity stunt.
No, I think he's going back and treating patients, which is just extraordinary. And one of the takeaways I had from Dr. Sharfstein was that the analogy of flicking off the switch, but then bringing it back on with a dimmer.
Well said.
I think that really, from at least in my mind, gave me a sense of how this might play out over time. It's not when do we get back to normal. It's over what time frame do we approach that.
Did I do okay with the Orioles illusion there?
I think so. You always bring it home.
Bring it home and
with the Red Sox.
Yeah, well, I brought the Red Sox in there because usually what the Red Sox do is they're 3 behind and they go down to the Orioles, take 3 out of 4. It's like the Orioles and the Kansas City Royals have the Red Sox number. There's no question about that. Let's do a data check here. I'm going to do this, folks. You wonder how I'm doing this at home, and the easiest way for me is the Bloomberg terminal actually on your iPhone, and it's really, really cool. It actually is no blah, blah, blah. It actually wow, it works. The VIX 44.61, futures up 94, Dow futures up 800, exactly 21,755. I must be doing a good data check. Vet Bill just walked in the room. Yields here. Hello, Vet Bill. Yields are higher this morning. Stay with us. We need to get the markets open. This is Bloomberg.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion or your race, or because you have children or a disability.
It's so wrong. Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing for a highly personalized experience? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's fast-paced environment, where the only constants are change and volatility, you need a prime broker who's both steady and agile, focused on supporting your needs so that you can focus on growing your business and producing results. Exceptional client service and advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE SIPC.
At UKME, our chauffeur service is 6-star. Just like the package we offer our drivers. Join the company that treats its drivers like VIPs. Apply today at ukme.co.uk.
London, it's time to play Find Unlimited. Get ready to play from wherever you are because we're bringing the game to you. Vodafone and Samsung are giving you the chance to win one of thousands of tech prizes, including the new Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G. What will you find in your area? Play between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. You'll have to be quick. Register now at findunlimited.co.uk.
The football boots that will help her score her first hat-trick. The tech that keeps you connected. The cozy jumpers that are perfect for snuggling up together. With a choice of ways to pay, you can make the most of family time. You can say yes when it matters most at very.co.uk. Goods and services provided by Shop Direct Home Shopping Limited. Credit provided by Shop Direct Finance Company Limited.
Hot, tasty, and ready in seconds. That's how most people like their coffee. I know because I used to have a coffee van outside London Bridge Station. Now I test coffee machines in the Which Test Lab. We find the machines that make the right amount of hot, tasty coffee time and time again. And the ones that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your home. Ah, perfect. Which.co.uk. Our tests find you the best.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Good morning. I'm Karen Moscow along with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney. And the S&P 500 is higher at the open. It's up 4% or 99 points at 2587. Dow Jones Industrial average up 4.3% or 917 points at 21,967. And the Nasdaq is up 3.8% or 279 points at 7652. 10-year Treasury down 20-30 seconds, yield 0.65%. The yield on the 2-year 0.25%. NYMEX crude oil down 4.6% at $1.29 to $27.05 a barrel. COMEX gold up 1.7% or $27.80 at $16.73.40 an ounce. The euro 1.0778 against the dollar. The yen at 109.10. Tom and Paul.
Karen, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene looking at our, I'm okay, folks. I mean, I didn't take part from the Lehman low in the bull market, but
right.
I feel good in cash, Paul, is how I do it.
Exactly
Gina Martin
right.
Adams with us of Equity, Bloomberg Intelligence, running all of our equity strategy, and we're thrilled that she's with us this morning. Gina, let's start with first principles. Are we in a bull market?
Not yet. We're absolutely still in a bear market. The question remains as to whether or not our bear market bottom is in. I do think we started at least a bottoming process, and as long as the economy gets back started again in later 2020, that probably was the main bottom, but we're still going to question it for a while, and you can't claim we're in a bull market until we reclaim at least half of the losses.
Okay, that's great, and I like that 50% Fibonacci kind of thing you got going there. Here's the bottom line, folks, and this is really important, and Gina's so good at this, which is the stock market always looks out forward. And I'm as guilty of this as anyone in the media. We love to look backward at facts. How far out right now, Gina, is the stock market looking? 6 hours or 6 months?
Yeah, I think it's been 6 months. I mean, if you look at historical sort of averages on what really matters for stocks is not actually the depth of recessions, but it's the duration of recession. And it looks to us like the market is pricing about a year of recession for 2020. So as long as we're starting to recover by, say, third quarter of this year and we're fully out of recession by 2021, the market is priced for that. I think this is one of the things that is really critical right now is we're all going to be blown away and completely captivated by how deep this initial recession is. And we think the market actually priced for an extremely deep recession, but it also is trying to price for not only a deep recession, but a relatively short recession. And the short is what matters most historically. Depth has almost no correlation to stock prices, but duration does. So we want to watch really carefully the signs of contagion, whether or not we are actually going to start to get back to work in the third or fourth quarter of this year. Those are the things that are most critical, as opposed to the numbers that are really going to appear incredible. Just thinking about how stocks price events.
So, Gina, we're about to start Q2 earnings season here. What do you think investors should do? What do you think companies are going to do in terms of guidance and that type of thing?
Yeah, it's going to be, companies have very little visibility right now as to where things are headed. I think you're going to get some companies that are obviously going to talk about, pulling forward of spending. Consumer staples companies are a good example of that, where consumers are absolutely hoarding merchandise and pulling forward a lot of spending. Some of the food companies probably will talk about that, and we'll have to contend with implications of, what their spending path looks like, what their revenue path looks like if we do head into recovery by the end of the year. And then other companies are going to have to talk about the absolute just drop-off in activity, no growth in spending whatsoever in the capital goods segments of the index. I think you're going to have a really broad array of commentary from companies. The one thing that no company knows is, when are we going to get back to work? I think we do want to focus somewhat on the companies that are do have significant sales exposure in Asia, because they can talk us through how the path to progress has formed in China, and that'll give us some guidance once we get through the lockdown periods and we start to get back to work. How rapid is our recovery? What can we expect for that path? Because that's going to be really critical to framing the outlook into later 2020.
And now, folks, a Bloomberg Surveillance Special. We can do this with Paul Sweeney, inventor of Bloomberg Intelligence, and Gina Martin-Adams, of course, running all of our equity strategy. There is a thing out there long ago and far away. No, I don't mean the sound of music, Paul, as we were talking about before. I'm talking about the MD&A. Long ago and far away, folks, before annual reports were a promotion document, the management would actually speak to you about the company. Gina, are the days of management discussion and analysis, are they gone? Is Jamie Dimon the only one writing an annual letter that people actually want to read?
No, I think they're still alive and well. I think they do get overshadowed by some of the short-term dynamics around quarterly performance, and certainly overshadowed by data and disclosure, which is increasingly how we invest as an institution these days. You know, think about all the algorithmic trading, all the quant funds. They live and breathe on data. So the data is incredibly important. But I do think you still have a lot of company commentary. Right. You've got a lot of companies that are going to come forward and talk about their survival in this quarter, which is critically important. How are they shoring up capital stores? What are they going to do about deployment of cash? You know, there is a lot of that still. Okay. And I do think they'll also talk about how they're contending with the crisis and what they're doing for their employees.
Fair. Okay. I mean, that's great. But, folks, I'm just going to make this clear. Everybody's going to be on a journey this year. Paul Sweeney, as you know, these things are mostly written by PR types. I mean, do you get any value at Bloomberg Intelligence out of actually reading the letter that's in the annual report?
If you're an analyst following the company, you should not get much value out of that, other than maybe something new on the strategy front. But I think if you're an analyst, you're looking at some of the detailed financial statements, Tom, and as I know Lisa and her team do. So, Lisa, if I'm brave enough to look out to the other side of this, and
it's Gina.
Gina, sorry.
You work with Lisa.
Oh, Lisa, that's right. Gina. I work with Gina, too.
Wait, we got to stop the show, folks. This is critically important. When one of your daughters finally learns how to make a gimlet, you don't get clear on Monday.
That's another story, right?
That's another story. But that was a very difficult weekend to see that the bartenders in the house got it right, Paul.
Exactly right. You do what you have to do here.
Continue, Paul, with Gina.
With Gina. So, Gina, if I look out to the other side, what do I look at? Do I look at the cyclicals? Do I look at my safe tech names? What do I look at?
Well, if you think the market is bottoming and likely to show some degree of recovery, you've got to start looking at risk. The most important thing to think about is volatility, because the most highly volatile stocks are going to outperform in the first stages of recovery. So you look at stock price volatility first. I think you also, a lot of this depends upon your time horizon, right? Because if you're an investor thinking about the cycle and you're thinking, so where do I find some reasonable value with a 3 to 5 year time horizon, you probably still think about the secular winners. This has been an extremely abnormal recession in that it has not deflated an investment bubble. The last two recessions were really formulaic in that we saw recessions emerge as the result of a deflating investment bubble of some description, and therefore it created a major shift in leadership coming out of those recessions. That's not the case with 2020. So our working thesis is most likely the winning groups going into this period of time are still the secular winners out of this period of time. But if you're looking for the short-term wins, stocks that are most likely to recover fastest and produce the strongest gains, they're simply the most volatile stocks.
All right, so Gina, Tom was mentioning the Jamie Dimon's letter recently. JP Morgan also came out with a pretty, I would say, conservative call this morning from their strategists in terms of the duration of what an economic recession would look like, and we might retest the lows here. Is that a reasonable outlook? That sounded, more on the cautious side to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody's cautious, quite frankly, which is why we're probably a little bit more optimistic. I can't tell you how many times I've had customers continue to call us and suggest, this is 2008, 2009. They're waiting for that next dip. I think it really depends upon where you think the economy is going to head and how fast you think that we're going to get out of these lockdowns. I do think duration matters most here. A lot of people are going to get scared off by fundamental weakness, but fundamentals do not. We're past that stage. Stocks have already priced a tremendous amount of fundamental weakness.
Right.
The risk really is, when do we start getting back to work? Because if we start getting back to work by the third quarter, we probably have passed our lows. If we start extending the duration of these lockdowns, it's a totally different story.
Gina, thank you so much. Don't be a stranger. We got to do this more this week. Gina Martin Adams, of course, equity strategist, running all of our equity coverage at Bloomberg Intelligence. And now, with the news in New York City, here's Michael Barr.
Tom, Paul, thank you very much. Germany and Spain reported lower numbers of coronavirus cases, a tentative sign that lockdown measures are easing the outbreak. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says he'll propose a state of emergency in some areas. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who is still showing COVID-19 symptoms, remains hospitalized as a precaution. President Donald Trump has been promoting a medicine he says may be able to help COVID-19 patients. President Trump said that the malaria drug hydrochloroquine may or may not help some people. Top White House trade advisor Peter Navarro says FEMA has now been asked to send out millions of tablets of the drug to COVID-19 hot zones like New York.
In the New York health and hospitals system, virtually every patient now that comes in presenting COVID-19 symptoms is given a cycle of hydroxychloroquine. And when I discussed this last night with Mitch Katz, who's the head of that system, I asked him, are you doing that because the federal government is telling you or because you think it may work? And he said quite clearly that it may work.
A new poll from the Associated Press finds that Americans in overwhelming numbers are actively avoiding others as much as possible and taking additional steps to protect themselves from the coronavirus. 94% of Americans say they are staying away from large groups, while 86% say they are avoiding other people as much as possible. The poll also finds half of Americans are now extremely or very worried that they or a family member will be infected by the virus. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg Talk.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Lots to talk about here. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene as we get the week started. Paul, I really got to go on the economic front to Thursday again in the jobless claims number. J.P. Morgan led their weekend research note with their guesstimate of 7 million additional jobs this week. And
just put that into context, Tom. 3.3, 6.5, and now 7.7.
Yeah, it's 17. Let's call it 17 million out of work. And they had a very nice distribution chart. And a lot of other people doing great work on this as well, but we can't forget that within all the talk about making the next 10 points on a given stock, there's a lot of really difficult challenges for individuals and the more smaller of the small businesses.
Yeah, and I think the real question as it relates to the stimulus, Tom, is the timing. When will the cash get out to these people who have lost their jobs and these businesses who have had to shut down?
Some banks, I guess, getting it done, Paul. Other banks not. But everybody's saying the bottleneck was the processing at the Small Business Administration.
Right, and I think a lot of people thought that would, in fact, be the case, Tom, that the SBA was not. And let's be honest, I mean, why should they be ready to do such scale? But that's clearly where the bottleneck was.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, we got a risk on feel here, whatever you think. Dow futures up 700, up 800. Dow now open and trading up 850 points, 21,903. I guess I can round that up enthusiastically to Dow 22,000. The VIX 44.29. Yields higher. Nice risk on feel. The 10-year yield moves 6 basis points, 0.65%. Worldwide, this is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. Forget the canned beans and put down that rolling pin and bread dough. It's time to start cooking king crab pasta and top it with truffles and heaps of caviar. Regalis Foods, revered for its gourmet cheese and rare mushrooms, is now selling its ultra-luxe food straight to consumers. It has seen 99% of its business evaporate as the restaurant world imploded. Live king crab is available for $395 a pound, which is almost cost for regalis. American Wagyu is a particular bargain at around $15 a pound, down from $60. Meanwhile, London's Old Vic Theatre is about to make an unusual offer to the audiences it turned away. Watch the drama at home instead of getting a refund. It's allowing people who bought tickets for Samuel Beckett's Endgame featuring Harry Potter actor Daniel Radcliffe to see what they missed over a dedicated video platform. It may not replace the live experience, but a remote audience is better than none as long as venues are shut. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 64.
London, it's time to play Find Unlimited. Get ready to play from wherever you are because we're bringing the game to you. Vodafone and Samsung are giving you the chance to win one of thousands of tech prizes, including the new Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G. What will you find in your area? Play between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. You'll have to be quick. Register now at findunlimited.co.uk.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
It's TuneIn Sports on this day. April 6, 1992, Duke's men's basketball beats Michigan 71-51. Winning back-to-back titles for the Blue Devils.
And here comes Duke on the break. Behind the back, Hurley, the hill. Why not? That's the play that was available. Nobody back for Michigan because they're sending 5 to the board.
To listen to conversations breaking down the moments just like this, search sports to be part of the discussion on TuneIn.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. U.S. stocks are following stocks in Europe and Asia higher this morning after the reported death tolls in some of the world's coronavirus hotspots showed some signs of easing over the weekend. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. The S&P 500 is up 4.1%, up 101 points at 2589. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 4 1/3%, up 908 points to 21,957. And the Nasdaq is up 4% or 292 points at 7665. 10-year Treasury down 19/32, yield 0.65%. The yield on the 2-year 0.25%. NYMEX crude oil down 3.8% or $1.07 to $27.28 a barrel. COMEX gold up 2.2% or $35.90 at $16.81.80 an ounce. The euro 1.0793 against the dollar. The yen is at 109.04. And J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon saying he expects the fallout of the coronavirus pandemic to include a major economic downturn and stress similar to the crisis that nearly brought down the U.S. financial system in 2008. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Thanks so much. Greatly appreciate that, Karen. Right now we're going to look at trade. We've been very domestic today, and I thought we really should go international here as well. Ted Alden joining us with the Council on Foreign Relations. Ted, Foreign Affairs Magazine provided great leadership this weekend, clearly with my read of the weekend, a wonderful essay on China. and on the path forward for the government. Very controversial essay about the strength of the Communist Party, the future for Mr. Xi as well. How fragile do you perceive trade is with Mr. Xi?
Well, I mean, I think trade is tremendously fragile. I mean, already before the current crisis, obviously, you had the trade war that you've been following very closely. So trade relations between the U.S. and China were pretty fragile going into this. Now you've just got a lot of incentives for countries to pursue more nationalist policies of various sorts in terms of, export controls, hoarding medical supplies, bringing back home critical supply chains. So, I mean, the current crisis is accelerating what we saw before, which was a migration of supply chains out of China to other places in Asia, even back to the United States to some extent. So trade is pretty fragile, but the Chinese have a big incentive to keep it flowing. So I think, coming out of this crisis, they've been behaving pretty responsibly. So that's the positive in all of this.
So, Ted, since the end of World War II, globalism has generally been the theme of trade. How big of a blow has globalism taken just in the last several years and then punctuated by this virus?
Well, I mean, I think it's taken an enormous blow. It's hard for us to remember where we were 2 or 3 years ago with this, really sort of world system set up under the WTO and a variety of other regional trade agreements. Companies very confident that they could locate portions of their production in wherever in the world it made most economic sense to do so. Goods, services moving very freely. We're in a much more fragmented world already. The question